Now we're going to take a look at those passages. Before we begin, I just want to explain certain things. First of all, as we're going to look into those passages, instead of speaking of chapters, we're going to use the word surah, which is the equivalent of a chapter. And so the Quran is divided in 114 surahs. And instead of using the word verse, we're going to use the word ayat. It basically means verse. And so surahs for chapters and ayats for verses. And I want you to understand that we are going to take a little bit of time looking at some of these passages in the Quran. And some of you may not want to look too deeply into the Quran, but let me explain why I think it's really important. It's because we're looking at the primary sources. And when you're doing historical research, scholarly work, when you're trying to really dig deep down to find out the truth, it's very important for you to look at the primary sources, not just to rely on secondhand sources or secondary sources. And so that's why I think that as Christians who want to interact intelligently with Muslims, it's so important for us to actually look in the Quran, to actually have an understanding of what it teaches, to actually not just repeat an argument that we've heard someone else say, but actually to look at it for ourselves so that when we do speak, when we give an argument, it will be very sound. And I can tell you, I've seen that. I've seen people try to repeat arguments without actually looking into the text themselves, and usually it doesn't go well. Usually they're going to show their ignorance in one way or another. I'll give you an example. There was this one pastor, I'm not going to tell you his name, but he wanted to basically give an argument against Islam, against the Quran. And he was trying to criticize the Quran. And one of the criticisms that he had was that there was no organization between, some surahs that are long, some that are short. And so it was kind of a strange argument. And I could tell he hadn't actually read the Quran the way that he was talking about it. If you just read the Quran, you're going to see something's wrong with that kind of argument. And so I don't want you to fall into that trap. I want you to be informed. I want you to read it for yourselves. I want you to be very well prepared so that when you speak to Muslims, you will speak from knowledge and from conviction. And for us today, we will begin by looking at the passages that have connections with the Bible. The reason we're going to begin with those passages is because I think it's so important for you to see that connection, for you to be able to point out that connection to Muslims as you speak to them. And what you're going to find out is that in some cases, some of these passages don't really give you a lot of information. They just quickly talk about a character in the Bible, and then they move on. Other passages are going to go quite in length talking about one of the Bible characters. And what I'm going to do to begin is that I'm going to show you both extremes. I'm going to show you a passage or a couple of passages where it just goes quickly through a list of names, a list of characters, and doesn't give you any information. It just kind of assumes that you know, or at least it assumed that the people in the 7th century knew who those people were. And then I'll show you a passage that goes into great length, into a lot of detail concerning the life of one of the Bible characters. And so let's begin with the first extreme. I want us to begin by looking at passages where it doesn't give you any information at all about those characters. Let's begin with a short one. I want you to go to Surah 6, ayat 83 and 84. I'm going to flip to it. If you want, you can just go online on Quran.com and you can find it easily. So Surah, what did I just say? 6. I think that's what I just said. 6, ayat 83 through 84. I'm going to read it. And if you want, you can just read it by yourself. You can pause the video. It's up to you. But throughout this lesson, I'm actually going to read every word from the passage that I'm going to tell you to look up. So Surah 6, ayat 83 and 84. It says, "That was the reasoning about us. which we gave to Abraham against his people. We raise whom we will, degree after degree, for your Lord is full of wisdom and knowledge. We gave him Isaac and Jacob, all three we guided, and before him we guided Noah, and among his progeny, David, Solomon, Job, Joseph, Moses, and Aaron. Thus we reward those who do good. All right, it goes on. Actually, there's more. I'm just looking at it right now. I'm just going to continue into ayat 85 and 86 because I'm looking at the names right now. It says, and Zechariah and John and Jesus and Elias, all in the ranks of the righteous, and Ismael and Elisha and Jonas and Lot, and to all we gave favor above the nations. All right, let's stop here. Now, you probably recognized a lot of these names. Some of the names in Arabic, they sound different, but are actually biblical characters. So when it says Ismael, it's actually Ishmael. Let's see, what else? Elias, it's Elijah. So maybe I should point that out because there's a few names that kind of change, but overall you recognize those names. It talks about these Bible characters of the past, and it says that these are people who were righteous in God's eyes, but it doesn't give you any information as to what they did, what God revealed through them. It just assumes that the reader will understand who these people are. Let's look at another passage like that. This time we're going to look at Surah 21, ayat 71 through 83. So you can turn to it, Surah 21, ayat 71 through 83. Here's what it says. But we delivered him and his nephew Lot, and directed them to the land which we have blessed for the nations. And we bestowed on him Isaac, and as an additional gift, Jacob. We made righteous men of every one of them. And we made them leaders, guiding men by our command. And we sent them inspiration to do good deeds, to establish regular prayers, to practice regular charity. And they constantly served us. And to Lot, too, we gave judgment and knowledge. And we saved them from the town which practiced abominations. Truly, they were a people given to evil, a rebellious people. And we admitted him to our mercy, for he was one of the righteous. Noah, when he cried to us aforetime, we listened to his prayer and delivered him and his family from great distress. We helped him against people who rejected our signs. Truly, they were a people given to evil. So we drowned them in the flood altogether. And remember David and Solomon, when they gave judgment in the matter of the field into which the sheep of certain people had strayed by night. We witnessed their judgment. To Solomon, we inspired the right understanding of the matter. To each of them, we gave judgment and knowledge. It was our power that made the hills, the birds celebrate our praises. With David, it was we who did it, all these things. Let me see. I think I'm supposed to read more, but I think that gives you a good idea. I think I'm going to stop right here. Yeah. But basically, the point that I wanted to make is that, again, you have a bunch of Bible characters mentioned. There's a little bit of information given about them. Some of the stories are reflected, but overall, it just kind of names these people, assumes that you know these names, and affirms that these were righteous men and that God revealed himself to them. There's one more passage I want to look at, and that gives us a very brief overview of these characters, and it's from Surah 38. It's going to be Surah 38, ayat 45 through 47. Here's what it says. And commemorate our servants Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, possessors of power and vision. Verily, we chose them for a special purpose, proclaiming the message of the hereafter. They were in our sight truly of the company of the elect and the good. And commemorate Ismael, Elisha, and Zulkifl. Each of them was of the company of the good. You probably don't know the last one, Zulkifl. Forget that one. But the other ones, you probably recognize these names. Again, the point that I'm making is just that I want to show you both extremes. On the one hand, the passages that show just a quick glimpse at these Bible characters, And then I want to show you the other extreme. I want to show you a passage that goes into great depth about one of the characters. And then after we do that, we'll look at the passages kind of in between that give you a short testimony, a short passage about Bible characters.